Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. I'm your host, Old Man Nate, and today we have a very special guest, Tim Bailey from College Football Dogs, and he also has his own show called The Tim Bailey Show. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me, Nate. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to have you on. And wanted to talk to you because, well, first of all, let's tell the audience exactly what it is you do.
Oh, right. I'm the executive vice president of College Football Dogs. We're a new college football media outlet. We pride ourselves on the slogan of "For fans, by fans." So we have a bunch of people who we're fans of teams, and then on top of that, we have guys like myself and Kyle Golick who have journalism and writing experience, and we've kind of gotten together and built this cool little conglomerate of different ideas, and we do all sorts of things. We have like a dozen podcast shows on top of we do college football content written as well. We're really on the cutting edge. I think we're doing a really solid job, and we've been growing, pretty well. We started in June, and they brought me on in late July, and I think things are heading in the right direction there. And then for the Tim Bailey Show, I do that 3 times a week. We talk college football for 3 hours, 3 times a week. On Friday, I go to different cities around the country, try to get onto campuses. Heading to Notre Dame this weekend. I'm in talks with a bar called Legends down there, which is actually owned by the university, and we'll see kind of how that goes.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, I've been following you for a couple of months now. I got you on Facebook and a couple of things, and I follow you on YouTube as well. And yeah, you do a great job of promoting college football, and you do a great job of going to different cities. It's got to be fun traveling to all these different cities.
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of work. Surprisingly, my wife hasn't killed me yet, so I think we're going okay. Um, she's driving right now while I'm in the passenger seat, so she got a little chuckle out of that.
Okay.
But there's a lot of work that goes into it, obviously, but because there's a lot of traveling and things of that nature. So, I don't spend as much time at home sometimes, but like I said, I'm not poisoned, so I guess it's going okay so far.
Yep, that's good. That's really good. And this past weekend, you got the privilege of being in Dallas, Texas for the OU Texas Red River rivalry. Was that your first time ever being there?
Actually, no. Last year was my first year there. I
Okay.
sat through Oklahoma getting walled 49-0, so that was my
Yeah.
first year. So this is my second experience there. I got to say, it was a much better and preferred performance than the first one that I attended. So,
Definitely, definitely. Even if you weren't an OU or Texas fan, just the fact that both teams showed up this year had to make it more enjoyable. No, OU.
absolutely. I mean, there was a game between, I think. Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You entered the portal there for a second. I was saying, absolutely, there was a great atmosphere. As you know, it's split 50-50 right down the 50-yard line. OU
Hmm.
Texas on each side. They say on every play the stadium roars because of if one person's happy the other side's not, and vice versa. And this was a back and forth affair, I think, between two titans of this college football season. I think both Oklahoma and Texas are elite teams this year. And they both played tremendous games, and the Sooners came out on top in a close one.
Yes, it was an excellent game. Um, Tell us your thoughts overall on. First, let's start on the atmosphere. Tell people who've never been down there what the atmosphere is like for OU Texas.
Okay, the atmosphere is kind of unlike any other game that I've been to. Um, I've been to Ohio State, I've been to LSU, I've been to OU, I've been to West Virginia. I've been to a lot of different college football stadiums, and there's some campus games that are great. And when anyone says, "Hey, where's the best one you've been to?" I always have to say the best campus game I've been to is this, because the Cotton Bowl, I knew since last year, that's just different. Oklahoma and Texas, these guys do not like each other. You walk through the best state fair in the country, in the Texas State Fair. It's a religion down there. So you're entering into a religion, basically, which is the Texas State Fair. You're walking through all the fried food, the crazy venue. You get into this historic stadium that fits about 100,000 people. And these people hate each other. I mean, they want to fight each other. It is incredible. It's an incredible experience that's unlike anything in college football. It's like a bowl environment, except it's a rivalry game. I've never seen anything, quite frankly. So it's an incredible experience. If you're a fan of college football, it's something that you need to definitely check off. And if anyone's saying that it should leave this venue and go somewhere else, they're wrong. Yeah, the venue needs some adjustment. It's an old stadium, but that is a special environment and a special place for a college football game, and it should never leave that venue.
I agree 1,000%. I was there's the last few years there's been conversation about should the ball game go to Jerry's World or what are they going to do, because it's just by contract with the Cotton Bowl. Should they go somewhere else? And what I tell people, because I've been down there 6 times, and I've been in the stadium 4 times, and I've been outside the stadium twice watching the game. And obviously it's better inside, but you still get a great atmosphere being outside the stadium. So me personally, if they have to move from the Cotton Bowl, I say go home and home. No more, don't go Jerry's World, just go home and home. And a couple of reasons for that. One, I think the fair is a big part of the rivalry there in Dallas. And if you take the fair element away from it, then you might as well just do home and home. Let the Sooners go visit Austin, let the Longhorns come visit Norman, because that's never happened in any of our lifetimes. I think I don't think they've ever been to Austin or Norman. They've been to Oklahoma City. They played in Oklahoma City once or twice a long time ago, but I don't think they ever played in Austin or Norman. So
they have. Both teams have played in Austin and in Norman twice.
Twice.
They've played 2 matchups, but it's been over 100 years since that's happened. Now there is some talk with the renovations for the Cotton Bowl coming up, that if the Cotton Bowl and the fair can't provide a good playing environment during, that there is some talk that there could be a home and home for those 2 seasons. And I think that would be the way to go. Definitely not bringing it to Jerry's World. And there's no disrespect. I mean, the Cowboys Stadium, at AT&T Stadium, I mean, it's a great environment. The Big 12 championship is held there. And, this year it's more than likely going to be those 2 playing in that stadium. But I don't think anything quite compares to that Cotton Bowl experience. The tunnel, the fans, the fair. I mean, it's the definition of what college football is all about.
Yep, I agree. So now let's talk about the game itself. I know you don't have much time, so just tell me your thoughts on the game, your take from the game.
So my first take on the game is, I think that there's through 6 games, and we're half a season right now. There's 6 games left. I think Oklahoma and Texas might be the best 2 teams in the country, and they played on the field, and they duked it out in a heavyweight style in a game where anyone could have won. I have to point out, Dylan Gabriel hasn't played in a lot of big games in his career. He's played in a lot of games, but not necessarily a lot of big games. He was a little shaky, through the first few quarters of the game, and missed some throws that, aren't characteristic of him. It's his first start in this rivalry, as of course he missed last year with a concussion. But when the game mattered the very most, he went 4 for 4, 58 yards, game-winning drive, touchdown. Oklahoma walked it off basically with 15 seconds left, and they went on to win. And I was very impressed by one. We know how physical the Texas front is. They've got, on both sides, they've got NFL guys all over the field.
Hmm.
And Oklahoma was the more physical team in the game. They deserved to win. Their defense, which now leads the nation in interceptions after this contest, was able to take the ball away from Quinn Ewers 3 times, twice through the air and once causing a fumble. And all 3 of them were forced. None of those were Quinn Ewers making mistakes. This is a very good defensive team. Jeff Levy had probably his best performance as a Sooner play caller in this game. He was definitely in his bag throughout. And the Sooners, how about the walk-on, right? Tawi Walker, 2 touchdowns in the game. He's a walk-on. Just incredible, just incredible performance. I came away really impressed with Quinn Ewers, Jonathan Brooks, and Anthony Hill on the Texas side. Uh, Anthony Hill, the freshman linebacker, he was all over the place. Speaking of Tawi Walker, he had a old school WWE suplex on him at one point in the game. And then, Quinn Ewers, Texas record 19 consecutive completions. He didn't miss a single throw, aside from a throw that, very well could have been called pass interference from like the third quarter, the third drive on. I mean, that is just, that is outstanding quarterbacking. He was excellent in the football game. And, OU didn't make it easy on him. Like Gentry Williams, he was on A.D. Mitchell for 46 snaps and only gave up 1 catch. So, I mean, this wasn't an easy thing. Sark had to scheme some guys open. They had to get some guys matched up on linebackers. It wasn't easy to make the decisions that Quinn had to do in that game to complete 19 consecutive balls and give himself a chance to win. And Jonathan Brooks, I mean, there wasn't a lot of room to run for him early in that game, but still in the third quarter, he was able to turn it on. In the fourth quarter, tied the game at 27 with a monster run. That was just it was big time, man. These 2 teams are big time teams. Texas, to their credit, they were down, I believe, 13, and they came all the way back to take the lead. And, Oklahoma, despite all the momentum in Texas's favor, was able to still win the game despite giving up that lead. So, I mean, truly just body shot after body shot between these two. It was an incredible game. Definitely the best one that's been played so far this season. Oh, I can't hear you, Nate. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, I tried to change some things on my settings. I guess it didn't work. So I agree with you 100%. I think, like you said earlier, is round one of round two. It should be anyways. The only way it won't be round one of round two is if, really, if Texas blows it. I think even if OU loses the game, they should still be locked into the Big 12 conference or Big 12 championship with that one loss because they got the tiebreaker over Texas. They would have to, and they would be tied with whoever beat them most likely. So, um, yeah, there's still a lot of football to be played, but halfway through, the Sooners are in control of their own destiny to make it to the Big 12 championship and a shot at the playoff. So,
Absolutely. You couldn't draw it up any better. Coach Venables in his second year already matched the win total from his first season.
yeah.
I was definitely one of his harshest critics in year one. I didn't think that he did a great job. I thought that some of his game management skills cost OU in some close games. And in this game, his game management was perfect. The timeouts that he took at the end of the game to give his team a chance with I believe it was a minute 12 left when OU got the ball back after Texas took the lead. Those are the type of things that we needed to see from Coach Venables to take the next step. And then on top of that, obviously, this team is a lot deeper and more talented than the one that was fielded last year. That was kind of gutted in some ways with Lincoln Riley moving on to USC and some of those players,
Mm-hmm.
leaving. So, not to mention that you lose guys like a Nick Benito and a Brian Asamoah and Isaiah Thomas, Neville Gallimore. I'm sorry, not Neville Gallimore. Jalen Redmond to the NFL. Those kind of guys. You lose those kind of guys. There's going to be some sort of impact. I still thought Oklahoma should have won at least 3 or 4 more games last year. But, hey, last year's last year, this year's this year, and Oklahoma looks like a team to be reckoned with.
It sure does. Now, one thing I would like to add on your game management you mentioned last year. I really didn't look into it that much. I always have just told people that were hard on Brent Venables. I told them, and they were a lot of them hard on Dylan Gabriel as well.
Yep.
I felt like our offense was good enough last year to win ball games. Our defense wasn't. Some of it had to do with personnel. Some of them had to do with not knowing the system that Brent brought in.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I felt like if our defense had been better, we'd have won 10 games last year.
Oh, absolutely. You can look at it.
You mentioned the game management. It's funny you brought that up because this is Brent Venables only his second year head coaching, right?
Yep.
Sarkisian, he coached at a couple different schools before he even got to Texas as a head coach. So he's got a lot more game experience as a head coach, and he looked like the one that didn't know game management when it came down the stretch, because especially their last drive, when they're driving, they got the ball with 4 minutes and some change, and they were snapping the ball with 25 seconds to go in the play clock, 20 seconds to go in the play clock. If they really would have ate it up, they would have never gave OU a chance to win. So,
I think there's two factors there that I want to defend Sark on a little bit. The first one is you don't know, right, that at the beginning of your drive if you're going to end in a score. That's the first thing. If they end up punting and there's and they eat up 2 minutes and they punt and then OU walks it off, then they're going to look silly for letting so much time go off the clock, right? But the other aspect of it is, tempo was what was working against OU. One of Brent Venables' strengths is the checking of the defense, and I think in order to be effective, they needed to run tempo to make it harder for the communication to come in. So I think Texas did what they had to do, and they really couldn't start running the clock until they got on the other side of the 40. And by then, you had a TFL by Jacob Lacey, and then it became a 3rd and 9. They ran it to force the last 2 timeouts. I don't know that I would be overly critical. I think one of the more weird ones, I didn't like the way he started the game because I don't think the Oklahoma defense is very fast, and their corners have made a lot of really good plays one-on-one in space. And they came out, and the very first snap was a screen pass behind the line, and it went for negative yardage. And then following that, they subbed in personnel, and they had a 5-wide set, which, when you have a 5-wide set and you have as many good athletes as Texas has, that's awesome. But the problem is Oklahoma has great athletes too. And I thought their advantage was going to be trying to, get matchup oriented. And that's what they did as the game progressed. But, obviously Gentry Williams won the battle against, A.D. Mitchell and was able to get that interception. And I thought that was where he came up the most short. At the goal line, if you can't get in 4 times from the 1, I think that's more on his players. You've got to find the ability to get that 1 yard. Sarkisian, though, he is a lot further along, as you mentioned, in his progression as a head coach. And this is Venables' only 2nd season. And I'm not sure if Sarkisian has ever been 6-0. So, for what that's worth, in some ways you could make an argument, that Venables is much further ahead of schedule compared to Steve Sarkisian as it stands today. He's definitely further along than Texas in year 2, who went 8-5.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Tim, and I'd love to have you on again sometime. Have fun down there in Notre Dame this weekend. That should be a great game.
It should be. It'll be a lot of fun. USC and Notre Dame are 2 teams that are really just trying to find themselves. USC is a little fortunate. They're going to find themselves without any losses at this moment, so they have an opportunity to still reach all the goals, that they have in mind for this season. Notre Dame, they're playing kind of for the glory and the pride, but, that still has some value in and of itself.
All right, Tim. Enjoyed having. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
Yes, sir. See you next time. Have a good one.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, hold on 1 second. I'm trying to fix my audio.
I restarted my computer. I think it was on my end.
Is it better now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you guys a lot better when I log back in.
Okay. All right. We want to welcome Sean from Horn Takes on. How you doing, Sean?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Man, we're doing good. Um, so wanted to do a little OU Texas recap. I watched two of your shows since the game. You did a great job on your shows, and I could see the frustration on you in your show, man. You know, I'm a people person. Okay, so I'm not here to rub anything in. All right, I promise you that. It's all love. I hate seeing people hurt after we get so invested in our teams. We hurt when we watch our games, win or lose. And I believe me, I've been I've been uh, I've been hurting like that before too. You know, when Lincoln Riley left, I am not gonna lie, I was crying. It hurt, but at the end of the day, I look now, and I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad our situation we have right now as a Sooner fan. I'm glad that we have Brent Venables, and in matter of fact, we wouldn't have beat you guys Saturday if we had Lincoln Riley. I can promise you that because our defense would not have been as good as it was on Saturday. You know, because that's the one Lincoln Riley does not believe in defense. Um, so anyway, welcome to the show. Again, I'm not here. I didn't bring you on to rub it in. I promise you that. So, but I do want, I did see beforehand. I asked Tim also give us his atmosphere, what he thought about it. I know you've been down there before. That was his second time. But just the atmosphere itself, in the stadium, outside the stadium. What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty typical. Before the game, super crowded, tons of crimson, tons of burnt orange. You hear the Boomer Sooners going. You hear the Texas fights going. Uh, you know, I thought from that perspective, it was pretty much the same as any of the other ones I've been to. Game day was there, and they squeezed it in the Cotton Bowl Coliseum or Cotton Bowl Plaza, which is really close to the stadium. So that portion of the fair, kind of where you move from, over there where Big Tex Plaza is, over towards the Midway, was just an absolute mob of people. You couldn't even hardly move. Both bands were there when we got there, playing there, or at least pieces from both bands were there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. But yeah, man, pretty typical before the game atmosphere. I thought the atmosphere inside the stadium was awesome the entire time, just simply because it was a good game. I mean, It was a back and forth type of deal. It started off just completely wild. I think that's probably the wildest, 6 minutes of a football game I've ever seen, or I've ever seen a game start that way in my life. Just so many like huge plays and strange things happening, and just really, I mean, it was Red River Shootout. It was like chaos. You see this game a lot, and there's always crazy shit that happens in this game. And that first 6 minutes I remember standing there, and it felt like we'd been there forever. Like you were just exhausted almost emotionally after that first 6.5 minutes. I remember looking over at my wife, and I said, and I don't normally watch scoreboards. Like I don't normally watch the clock, until it's at the end of a half or end of the game. And so I wasn't even paying attention. I kind of glanced up, and it read 9 minutes or something, 8 something. I was like, can you believe they've only been playing for 6 minutes?
No.
And all this shit has happened.
Right.
And so, yeah, man, that was wild. So, yeah, I thought the game atmosphere, trying to think back, I mean, it was probably the best game atmosphere of any of the ones I've been to, just simply because it was such a close game, and there were so many big plays.
Yep. Yeah, it was I was at Twin Peaks. I got Twin Peaks that let me do shows from there before and after the game now. So that's where I watched it from. It was great. And there was Texas fans there too. Even here in Oklahoma City, we got a lot of Texas fans here too. So it was a great atmosphere. But you're 100% right. You said on your show too, the first 6 minutes, there was so much stuff that happened, so many plays that happened that, made this game a special game in just 6 minutes into the game. Texas or Ewers throws an interception, second play of the game. We get a touchdown. Then they drive. Then we stop you again, 3 and out, but you do a fake punt. And I heard your story on that. You didn't see it. You was getting beer. But
That's right. Yeah, I didn't see the fake punt. I didn't see the 4th down and 2 or whatever it was that Savion Red converted with the pass play.
yeah,
I walked back into the stadium right when Gunnar Helm had gotten tackled, and they were reviewing, whether he fumbled the ball or not on the very next play. I believe it was. Actually, it was that play. So yeah, I didn't get to see that play. So it's kind of cool to watch the replay. Last night and this morning, I watched it a couple times just to get some brain thoughts rather than emotion thoughts. And
right.
So I missed those things, and those were so that's what makes those 6 minutes even more crazy. Is I didn't even know those things had happened. And I still was like, this is the craziest freaking 6 minutes of football I think I've ever seen.
Right.
So yeah, man, it was a crazy start. It did kind of, level off, towards the end. And it became more of what I felt like that game would probably be. I think we got the game that I think we thought we would get. We just got that 6 minutes of, acid trip at the beginning of it. So
yeah. And then the block punt. We didn't even talk about the block punt. Because you end up getting an interception. We end up getting an interception right there on the goal line. Can't move the ball. And Texas blocks the punt, just tie it up. And I've heard you on your show talk about that what when you see it in the same, you thought it was a targeting, and then after rewatching it, you said you didn't think it was a targeting. He didn't get him. He did not get him in the head or neck area. Got him right in the chest. However, I'm a Sooner fan. If it's by rule, if you launch at a player, that could be targeting in the high chest area. And Billy Bowman's not the tallest guy in the world. He's a little bit taller than Kyler Murray was. And he definitely launched.
He definitely launched. And that's why, as I do my exaggeration Monday, which is all no rewatch. It's just my live game thoughts. It's my drunk Sean during the game,
right.
Rants that I go on. It's kind of that. It's a little less emotional on Monday, obviously, because I've had 2 days to process. But I try not to watch the game again until I do my show on Tuesday. And so watching it live, he definitely launched, and it looked like he launched to the the head and neck area. And so, but yeah, I had no problem with the hit when I saw it on the replay. I thought it was just a good old fashioned football hit. I mean, that's how I hated to see that Sean Preston kid from Mississippi State in the LSU game get kicked out of that game in the second half, have to sit out the next game, first half, on a form tackle hit on the LSU quarterback. I have no idea why they threw a flag on that play. I have no idea how they confirmed it and said it was targeting. It absolutely wasn't. He stuck his face mask right in his chest. Like that's how I got taught to tackle when I was a kid. So
right.
So yeah, man, I had no problem with that one. And then there was one later in the game that actually I think Bowman got hurt on. And that's why I thought that was a targeting, because he looked wobbly. And I thought, well, you must have hit him helmet to helmet. But it wasn't either. So yeah, man, I think both those plays were clean. And it just good plays.
Yeah. Yeah. The other one, I'm not sure. I don't remember that one. But I will say, since we're talking really clean plays that happened that could or couldn't have been called on penalties, I will say I think they called a late hit or unsportsmanlike on. I don't think it was unsportsmanlike. I think it was a late hit on. I don't even know what Texas player it was when Dylan Gabriel kind of took a last minute slide and there was contact. As a football fan, I was even telling my buddy who was sitting next to me, we're both Sooner fans, we didn't like that call.
Yeah, those are hard calls.
Yeah, but
they're hard for those guys to call, and they're hard for players not to make. The problem with some of those bang bang plays like that is defenders are already locked in on where they're going to go try to make a tackle, and they don't know that the quarterback's going to slide. And so he was preparing himself to try to make a tackle. And then of course Gabriel slides or is in the, just now in the process of sliding. It almost looked like they almost simultaneously at the same time, said Dylan Gabriel said, I'm going to slide. And he said, I'm going to try to make this tackle. And once you do that, you're in no man's land. You can't stop it. So I get why they have the rules for some of these things. I just don't all the time like the interpretation of the rule or like the finite of the the finiteness of the rule. Every time this happens, it's got to be this necessarily. Right. But I didn't have a problem with it. He hit him and he was sliding, so that's the way it goes. It sucks sometimes as a defender, but it's just kind of the world you live in, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the game. It was a great game. Back and forth. Well, we took really back and forth. Well, I thought OU messed up on two opportunities to really put Texas away. One was right there after we get the second interception, and instead of moving the ball down the field, I wouldn't say I'd put them away because it was it'd been early in the game, right? But I think it would have put them on their back heels a lot if we'd have moved down the field and scored, okay? Which we didn't. And the second one, all right, so we made two key mistakes. One, right after y'all blocked the punt, and again, I heard you talk about your show. I still don't know what the Texas players did to get the unsportsmanlike call on the safety or on a touchdown on a block punt, right? Watching on TV, usually they'll point out who did something and who did what.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I could have understood if that would have happened in the OU fan side of the field. Maybe they were taunting the fans or, something like that. But all this happened in the Texas end of the field. I can't imagine anything. Maybe one of them did a backflip or, I don't know. Who knows what they did? They never said. They never showed it again. I don't remember seeing anything in the game. What I remember seeing was the block, and we were sitting like right there even where all that happened. Mm-hmm. Obviously the block, Muhammad scoops it, they score, and then everybody, as they're going over to the sideline, they're just, celebrating with each other. But, I don't know. There wasn't any OU players over there, so I don't think it could have been a taunting thing to an OU player, but who knows? I hate if you're going to call unsportsmanlike on that, man, there's a whole lot of stuff you got to call unsportsmanlike, I think, and that's the problem. It's just inconsistent, and
I agree. Like,
it didn't hurt them, but it's just kind of like, come on, dude. Like, how's that? How's that? How is that unsportsmanlike? Just being happy.
Yeah, I know. And you mentioned in your show when Downs, OU defensive end Downs, sacked Ewers and he stood over him. It was pretty emotional when he stood over him.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't care about that. Like that.
Right.
That doesn't bother me, but the inconsistency of the calls is what I think is a problem. And it's not. It wasn't just this game. I do this about referees all the time. Yeah. I'll be watching games that I don't even give two craps about. Couldn't care less who won the game, and I'm like, dude, that is terrible call, or that's a terrible call. I just hate officials. They suck at their jobs. I feel like they're getting worse and worse, and really. Their job is to not put themselves. Their job is to not affect the outcome of games. Their job is to call a very specific set of rules by a book, and that's it. But there's all this interpretation now. I mean, I think that's a perfect example, and it doesn't even have to be. We don't even have to look at it through the lens of this game. But you give a penalty for celebrating a touchdown with your teammates, and then that's a 15-yard penalty, but standing over someone and taunting them right in their face is not a 15-yard penalty. Right. And so all I care about, like, call them, either don't call them or call them, but be consistent. I don't care either way. Because if you know what the problem is, these players are shooting at like moving targets every single weekend, and even sometimes within the same game, the officials change the way they interpret the rules. And so it's hard to know what you can, what you can't do. So I just don't like it. I think they got to get a lot better.
Right. No, I hear you. But back to what I was saying on OU, didn't take advantage of opportunities. Because of that penalty, and I think Brent was right on enforcing it on the kickoff. However, I think he overthought himself here. Why do a trick play when you're already 15-yard advantage, right? Just run your regular kickoff. And then the trick play, I mean, it kind of worked, right? But then and Texas was smart about it. I don't know if that was Sark or one of the assistants that said, "Hey, have him review it." I think it's an illegal forward pass, and it sure enough it was. And so now that advantage we have, 15-yard advantage, was just taken from us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a big mistake that OU did. And then another one. So we was up 3 at halftime, drove down the field, got a touchdown, so we're up 10. You guys, I believe it was your first possession, and it might have been right. I know you're talking about earlier the fumble when you guys fumbled the ball. When Ewers fumbled the ball, we get the ball to the 50-yard line, up 10. That's you got to put your foot on their throat. And we don't. In fact, we don't even get a first down. We end up punting the ball, right? That was a mistake. We got to go at least get a field goal out of that. And then later on, my buddy was sitting next to me. You guys went for fourth down on, I don't know, 3 or 4 times and got it. I think every time. Maybe once you didn't. Well, obviously you didn't on the goal line, but
right.
But I think there may have been another one you didn't get it. But we didn't go for it on fourth until one time. And my buddy we're at midfield. He's like, go for it. I'm like, no, punt it. Because our punter sucks anyways. That's about his range, 30 yards. So, that's what I'm thinking. And anyways, we didn't get the first down, so we get the ball over to you at the 50-yard line, and now the momentum's in your favor, and you go score. So,
yeah, it was. You look at the game, and there was whoever lost that game was going to be able to look at a lot of different things and say, this is where we could have been better. Or that's where we could have been better. This is where we might have lost the game. I feel like for Texas, it really came. To me, there's like 3 areas really. You look at the turnovers. Obviously, those are killer. Had 3 traditional turnovers. Then they had a turnover on downs. Then this one was a really big one for me. The running into the kicker was at a time in the game where Texas finally kind of got themselves settled into the game. They got past that first crazy half of the first quarter. Everything was starting to settle into a normal football game. They were making defensive stops. That would have been their second in a row. And it sucks. Keelan Robinson slipped when he took off, and then he kept going. And what he should have done was go, there's no way I'm getting there now because I just slipped when I tried to come out of my stance. Instead, he kept going, runs into the kicker. You guys end up getting, going down the field and getting a field goal. So, maybe not a backbreaker, but certainly from a momentum perspective, it was a bad spot. And then for Texas, just situationally on defense was just bad. You look at it, they gave up points at the end of the first half. They gave up points at the beginning of the second half. And then that was the only points they gave up the entire second half until the last drive of the second half. I thought the scheming of going into just such a ridiculous, prevent defense in both those situations with 3 down linemen. I know they were afraid of the deep ball, and they should have been. Texas has been susceptible to it this year. But Oklahoma only hit 1 deep ball before that in the entire game, and it was just a good play. And I don't know, sometimes you're going to win those, sometimes you're going to lose them. I know this though: if you leave the middle of the field just gaping wide open, and you don't get any pressure on the quarterback at all, he's going to wait. There's a route coming that way, and he's going to throw it in the middle of the field on time. The guy's going to catch it and get a lot of yards. It was just really that was one of the most disappointing things. How you had those 3 pivotal drives, and you look at any game, and those are 3 pivotal drives. Like the last drives before halftime coming out of halftime, whoever has the ball. Either it doesn't matter. You want to win those drives. You want to win going into halftime. You want to win coming out of halftime, and then ideally you want to win at the end of the game. And they couldn't win a single one of them. So that was pretty frustrating. And then I think the other big spot was the goal line where they couldn't get the ball in the end zone 4 straight times. That was just really, really rough, obviously for fans, and rough for the players and coaches, I'm sure too. But you got to be able to get 1 yard. So Texas had plenty of opportunities to win that game and do things to win that game. I think ultimately they just got started a little too late, and we've talked about that all season. They've done that in a lot of games. For whatever reason, they don't come out real focused to start games. And if you keep doing that, it's going to cost you. And I think, at least in some part, that did against Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I watched Texas a little bit, probably more than you have Oklahoma, but not near as much as you have, obviously, and watched Texas. And I don't know why they slow start, or sometimes, like against Wyoming, they didn't wake up till the 4th quarter. So I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's definitely a problem, and it's frustrating for me as a fan, because I know how good this team can be. I know how talented they are, and it sucks that they waste all of that sometimes. I don't know. I just don't feel like the game plans, or I don't like how they come out and just don't run the ball at the beginning of games. I don't understand why every first play of the game is a sideways pass that gets negative yards. It's happened the last 3 weeks. The first play of the game is a sideways pass to Worthy that goes for nothing. And then this week we emptied the backfield, gave Oklahoma nothing to think about except, hey, we got to cover. And then I thought Ewers, it was a great play by the Oklahoma secondary player, but Ewers missed the play. The throw was to Worthy on the inside slant. He was wide open. If you go back and look at it, he probably walks into the end zone if he hits him with that pass. The deep safety that was in the middle of the field pre-snap, it rolled over the top towards Mitchell and all them. He was wide open. All he had to do was clear that linebacker, which he did, and deliver the ball right there. He probably walks into the end zone. It was a bad read. What I think happened, Ewers stares down guys because I think in practice they think they're going to get a certain look. So they practice these plays a certain way, and they practice them against certain looks. And I think they expected to get a different look. I think that what they thought they were going to get was Worthy pulling coverage away from Mitchell in a man-to-man situation, and it wasn't a man-to-man situation. It was a zone situation. And so when he looked up, he stared down A.D. Mitchell, and that's why that cornerback from Oklahoma stayed with him so well, because he stared him down like that's the only guy that was in a route. So if he'd have saw the field better and made a better read, it would have been an easy throw too. Would have been nothing to it. So I didn't notice that during the game at all. I saw double slants, but I didn't see what Worthy really did or didn't do. But in the replay, it's clear as day. That dude was walking if he gets him the ball.
Yeah. Well, Ewers, outside of the 3 turnovers, he had a great game.
Yeah, he did.
I think he completed 19 or 20 passes in a row.
He completed 19 passes in a row. Didn't miss on a pass until that no call or whatever it was at the beginning of the 4th quarter. Long ball to Worthy. I call it a no call. I think that should have been pass interference, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's the only one he missed after the first 2 drives.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you: was there anything that surprised you? Meaning, like, you thought Texas would be able to do something and they weren't, or that you didn't, that maybe even you thought Oklahoma was not good in a certain position and then they were, or vice versa?
Yeah, well, so I'll kind of answer this 2 different ways. I thought I was surprised how much pressure they were able to get on Ewers, just with they weren't blitzing a lot of guys. They weren't They weren't bringing linebackers or the secondary people. Their front four just really disrupted the Texas offensive line. And I talked about it on my show today. I don't know. We ended up having to play a third string center after Majors went out because Cole Hudson was the backup center, and he's been out since Wyoming. And so this kid that came into that game hasn't played a lot of football. He's a redshirt freshman. I don't know that he's played at all, to be perfectly honest. I've never noticed him. Maybe he's played at the end of games, and kind of run the clock out mode. But I've never noticed it. So, and that's a tough position. I think the center position is a tough position to lose because that guy's kind of the quarterback on the line. He gets the offensive line set up with protections and all that. So I wonder. I don't know, but I wonder if some of the pressure came from mental mistakes on his part. Like maybe he didn't have him in the right, pass protection or things like that. I know physically he got beat a few times pretty solidly by the interior of the Oklahoma offensive line. So it's hard to tell how much of that pressure was because of that guy having to play versus Jake Majors. It may not have made a bit of difference in the world. They were just really, sort of tenacious on the front four defensively. And then I thought the other thing was I thought the Texas defensive line would be able to get more pressure on Gabriel. And I know they were getting the ball out quick. And I think a lot of teams have done that against Texas this year because they think, those are going to be tough matchups for their offensive line. But really, there was really only one play where I think anybody hit him. And it was early in the game. Tavondre Sweat got a real good push up the middle and hit him right when he let go of the ball. But outside of that, I think he stayed pretty clean in the passing game. And I just thought that wouldn't be the case. And I don't know. Again, I think it had something to do with just them being scared of the deep ball for whatever reason. The defense was a lot different in this game in terms of alignment. You'll go back and watch Texas play their first 5 games. Their cornerbacks are press the entire time. Like that's where they stand. They stand 2 yards in front of the guy right across the line of scrimmage, and they're ready to press immediately. They had a lot of real loose coverage, and it was man coverage. Made it real hard on those guys on the corners to have to come up and make tackles. And you saw Oklahoma break a lot of tackles right out there on just little quick, like 4 and 5 yard hitches got turned into 12, 13, 14 yard plays because the guys weren't coming up and making tackles. So yeah, man, I think really the interior, the strength of the Oklahoma defensive line, I don't know that it necessarily surprised me, but I didn't think it was going to be that good, and then the fact that our defensive line really didn't cause that much disruption for Gabriel was a pretty big surprise for me.
I was going to say the same thing. I agree both ways, because we haven't had a lot of sacks this year. Our defensive line is not blowing by offensive linemen, but they've done exactly what they're supposed to do, and that's just kind of like form a circle around the quarterback and, not let him run outside or escape and, collapse on him. But I was still, we got 5 sacks, and that's a lot in a college football game.
Yeah, so you can't let your quarterback get sacked 5 times, too many times. It's not going to be pretty. I think the other interesting thing about that was I didn't like count it, but there were times where I'm not sure what they were doing schematically, like trying to block. JT Sanders is not blocking defensive ends in the pass game, and it's happened. It happened at least once in that game.
Yeah.
Where he came across the formation, and that was his job, was to try to block a defensive end, and he just got thrown right back into the quarterback like a rag doll. I mean, JT Sanders is a really talented guy in the pass game. Blocking is definitely not his strong suit, and there's not a lot of tight ends in college football, period. They're going to be able to handle a defensive end on a pass rush. So I didn't like some of the schematic things they tried to do. I'm okay with like having a tight end help out. Mm-hmm. If you got a guy that's just giving you a lot of trouble, I'm down with that. I'm down with chips with the running backs and things like that. And it may have been a failure. It may have been one of those things I was talking about. Maybe a mental mistake, maybe by the center, maybe by Banks. Who knows? But yeah, I don't understand how a tight end is pass blocking a defensive end.
Yeah, and well, he's hurt. He's got an ankle too. He can't put a lot of weight on it and try and
Yeah.
push back against a lineman or defensive end. So yeah, you're right on that. And one of those sacks, that's exactly what happened. He was one-on-one. In fact, I think it's the one where he stood over him we talked about earlier. He just pushed him right back in the quarterback and then grabbed a hold of him and put him on the ground, So
Yep. That was never working. That was not a good idea.
right. But and I was surprised also that our offensive line did keep Gabriel clean. I think there was credit for one sack. And I don't remember it, but you said earlier in your show you thought it was when he ran outside and just didn't get back.
Yeah, he got outside around the corner, and Ant Banks ran him down and just kind of – it was the play where thank God, I mean, he made a smart play. He kind of held him up as they both went out of bounds instead of, trying to punish him, which would have drew a flag. So it was a good play mentally and physically by Ant Banks. It was a really good play because Anthony – or I keep saying Ant Banks. That's a rapper from the 80s.
Yeah.
Ant Hill ran him down from an inside linebacker position. So it was a really athletic play. But yeah, that was the lone sack.
Yeah. So I was surprised they weren't able to get more pressure. Now, I will say that winning touchdown pass, it looked to me like he was about to be sacked. And
they did get some pressure on him on that play. He got hit right about the time he threw the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe the guy that didn't cover him maybe the guy that blew the coverage was the guy that was in the backfield hitting him. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you went. So I've looked at it. That they blitzed. Texas blitzed on that when they brought outside pressure. We had one lineman on that side, and he was blocking two people at the same time. They're right there in front of Gillen. Like he had both arms up, one on each guy, and they were right in front of Dylan's face when he threw the ball. And if they're able to get to him, we may get a playoff. But if we do, that was second down play. We could have spiked it, maybe set something up. But if you spike it, you're probably kicking a field goal. So,
I think David Benda missed the coverage on that one, and man, that's why motion is a killer. That's why a lot of teams do it. I know Steve Sarkisian does it to get favorable matchups.
Yep.
And Oklahoma certainly did, and so that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm not trying to take a jab here, but in history, when Texas has lost a game, so I call it pouting. May not be the right words to say, but they, 2 years ago, Sark's first year, they lost 5 in a row after they lost to OU. All right, now this is a better Texas football team than that, but even last year they lost 5 games in the season, right? Do you think this team is better than those 2 years, or even in history tells us to where they will make it back to Dallas to play whoever? I mean, Sooners control their own destiny. However, Sooners have been known to lose a game to somebody they shouldn't even lost to. So I'm not going to say they're guaranteed to be there because that's not right. But do you think that your Longhorns are capable this year mentally to get over the hump and get back to Dallas?
Yeah, I think they're capable. Certainly, they just got to clean some stuff up. I mean, it's stuff that we've been talking about all year that they've got to clean up. They just got to be better, man. They're really talented, and I think a lot of times that talent and that explosiveness they have offensively covers up a lot of the mistakes that they make, and it makes it easy just to kind of push them under the rug, sweep them under the rug, and say, it's just all teams have problems. But if you really want to be a championship team, championship teams typically don't have a lot of holes, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. And this Texas team is still doing that, and there's still areas where they're just not championship quality. But again, I think they're capable of it. So hopefully they'll use this bye week to get a little healed up. They have been a little banged up. Had some key guys out. are banged up. So, that's football too. Everybody likes to talk about injuries and, how that made them lose. I don't think Texas lost Saturday at all because of injuries. I think they are just 6 games into a season. You got guys that are nicked up. So hopefully they'll get healed up and get their minds right. I think the hardest thing probably to do is to you want something real bad, you don't get it. You have a tendency to kind of dwell on that a little bit. They're going to have to get past that real quick and start getting focused on these last 6 games, because there's not a single game on this schedule left that they won't be favored in, and there's not a single game on this schedule left that they really should have any problem with if they play up to their ability. They've already played a really, really tough schedule and did it in the first 6 games of the season. So what, 4 was it 4? No, 1, 2, 3 top 25 teams, 2 top 10 teams. So they've had a really good front load. And then Wyoming is a team that is still hasn't lost a game since they lost to Texas. So I think they're a good football team. They got a big test this week against Air Force, I believe. Right. But so yeah, they're capable. We'll see. I think it's easy to be a front runner. It's not always easy to have adversity and fight through adversity. And you're right. These Texas teams the last couple of years have had some issues fighting through adversity. It got better last year than it was the year before. And I feel like for this team, they're even a step above that from a mental and certainly, playmaking ability. So I think they'll be okay. Ewers is playing really good football. Jonathan Brooks is obviously playing really well, which means in general, the offensive line is playing really well in the run game. So I'd like to see them maybe lean on that a little more heavy. Maybe not put so much on Quinn Ewers at the beginning of games. Even though, again, he answered the bell pretty daggum good after a kind of a shaky start. So, I look at those turnovers for him, and the first one I definitely am going to plan on him 100%, man. He just made a wrong read, threw the ball where he shouldn't have. Even if there was nothing else open, he should have never threw that ball. That A.D. Mitchell was never open on that play. And then the second one was just a great play by, the Oklahoma defender to get that ball popped up in the air. He didn't have a choice but to throw that a little high. There was guys in his passing lanes jumping up. And I think if he doesn't elevate that ball a little bit, it gets batted. And who knows what happened. It might got intercepted then too. So he hit him in the hands. That's the thing. I think if you get hit in the hands, you got to make a catch. And then the fumble was just kind of a hustle play. He's got to learn to slide. That's a inexperience / hustle type deal. So I'm not too mad at him about that. And again, good hit, good solid square hit by the Oklahoma defender. So yeah, they're capable.
Yeah, I think they are too, man. Yeah, this doesn't look like a Texas team from the past. And I mentioned OU has lost to Iowa State in the past, but we done beat them. We're not playing Kansas State. That's another thorn usually in our side. But both OU and Texas have something in common this year, and that is every team they line up against this year in the conference are looking to give it to them because it's their last chance. We're leaving the conference. So, even if I don't know who's in last, we play UCF our next game. They're 0-3 in conference play. They're not making it to the Big 12 championship. That's a given already because ain't no 3-loss conference team going to make it to the Big 12 championship this year. So they ain't got nothing to lose. They're playing for just to beat OU. And so we've got, plus that's where Dylan Gabriel came from, right? That's where he transferred from. So they're going to come into Norman. It's our bye week also. So next Saturday they're coming into Norman, and we should be expecting their best game. And then we got BYU. We got to go to Provo. We should be expecting their best game, and then come home. Then right after that we play on Black Friday against TCU. So, and then OSU, they're going to want to come beat OU one last time. That's in Stillwater. So, there's definitely games out there. They're not Alabama like you guys played, or Georgia like we should have played, but there's teams out there that are definitely capable of beating the Sooners. And I know Texas is going to get the best from Texas Tech at the end of the season, or I don't know the rest of your schedule, but I know you got Kansas State. You're going to get the best from them. So we just got to take care of business, and if so, then we'll meet up and begin in December in Jerry's World.
Yep.
So, well, there was one other thing I was going to ask you about. No, hold on. Yeah, I can't remember. Well, Sean, I appreciate you hopping on once again, and good luck the rest of the season. And if we do meet up again in Jerry's World, then we'll have to do another show to talk about the Big 12 championship.
I hope we're doing that in December or late November.
I do too, sir.
All right, man. Take it easy, Nate. Thanks for having me.
All right, you too, Sean. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining Old Man Sports Talk, and we'll see you next time right here on Old Man Sports Talk.